All right, morning. So I just hit the gym, of course. It's a commitment. I don't miss the gym during the week, rarely. So obviously I skip at times. But annihilated back today. And this is on the way home from the gym. I sent a voice message to my two partners. We do that all the time. You know, we start our day right. We leave, videos or voice messages as we're all coming together to just go to war. Business is war. Like you're in a battle. And then the response from one of our partners, Skylar, as he's on the way to the gym, because as successful men who want to stay in shape and be healthy, we work out, right? We hit the gym. Why? Well, because if you don't have the discipline to take care of your body, eat clean, eat healthy, don't have toxins, don't have addictions, how in the world can you be someone how can you partner with someone who's not like that? Like, to me, it couldn't. Like, if there's someone who's destroying their body and not treating their body right, how in the world are they going to treat the business right? So anyways, besides the point, he left a great message just about, the blessing of just our partnership and in business, the three of us together. Then Todd left a message. And I'll tell you, we've been working very hard for the last couple of years in business together. Very hard. I mean, like insanely at times. And being an entrepreneur, that's just what you have to do, right? Oftentimes not taking any salary, taking any income. You got to pour back into the company. But my point in this is, if you want to stay with me in this morning thought process that's going through my brain, the Bible talks about being equally yoked. It's in 2 Corinthians 6:14 maybe, not 100% sure, right around there. Anyways, the Bible talks about that. And of course, you can take that into many different aspects. You can go from a spiritual, and fellowship perspective. You can do that in a marriage or dating. You can do it in business. You can talk business spiritually, business alignment, whatever, right? There's so many ways you can slice and dice that. But there's just an important principle that I'm seeing play out over the last 2 years-ish, really 1.5 years in this newer business that we ended up morphing into and aggressively growing, is when you're equally yoked in work ethic, integrity, vision, ability, it creates a multiplying effect in the business that dwarfs what you can do individually. Right. And this can also be done on a team member perspective. You have the right people in place, but we're talking equity partners right now. And I've had good business partnerships throughout my life. I've done, gone on alone. I've gone it with partners who were kind of on the back end, and I was the primary operating partner building. This is my first time in business. In almost 30 years about it, being an entrepreneur, where there's three. Bible also talks about a 3-stranded cord is not easily broken. And there's 3 of us that are aligned in all aspects of priority of life. We're not out of balance. Both of my partners are married for a long time, have kids, care about their family, pour into their family. They don't pour into hobbies with others. They've got the priorities right. And that's how I've lived my life. I'm not saying I haven't fallen short. I screw up all the time. But I'm saying priority-wise, I'm not going golfing with buddies on a Saturday every weekend or something. I don't golf, but I'm just giving an example. Like, I'll go and do certain things here and there. But for me, it's like I'm pouring into the business, and I'm home with family, and then church, and then business, family, home, gym, me, right? Well, so these guys are aligned in the right priorities in life. They're aligned skill set wise. We all have 20 plus years of business experience in different industries coming together to walk a path. And that's what I always say. We're on the path. We're on the path. Even in the trial, you face challenges. It's my saying. I say it all the time. Guys, we're on the path. And we're walking the same path. But more importantly, we're in the trenches, right? There is a difference between leadership that leads from atop and afar, and leadership that is in the trenches building, and in the trenches from the bottom up, lighting the fire underneath. So these guys are just like that. And we have cross skill sets. Like, our skill sets cross, like where have strengths in the same areas, But then we have strengths outside of the same areas. So where I may be weak, Todd is strong. Where Todd may be weak, Skylar is strong, and vice versa. I mean, that's just been proven over the last couple of months here. Skylar comes from a very big culture of culture building in sales teams, and what he's doing on that side of things is mind-blowing. It's awesome. So Skylar, way to go. And Todd is a phenomenal communicator, and his ability to work with and develop and train and teach, and then there's many other skill sets they all have. And then I've got my own skill sets, right? And then I've got my network that they don't have access to, right? And I got their network that I don't have access to. So it takes this three and creates a strong cord, right? That's hard to break. And what happens is the impact, the compound impact that you have in your business dwarfs what anything you can do individually. So as you evaluate life and your future and whatever you're doing, it's so important. Obviously, relationship wise as well. Like, I'm blessed. I have an amazing wife who has put Christ first in her life. But I couldn't imagine, and her dad said never date a Democrat. Thank you, Mike. Which is awesome, seriously. Because I don't know how personally, and this is off topic, but I cannot fathom how you can have a conservative or a biblical worldview and align yourself in marriage, dating first of all, but in marriage with someone that has a worldview that's antithetical to God. And if you look at the Democratic platform, if you call yourself a believer and you're voting for that platform, it's between you and God. Obviously, those in the other party fall short left and right. And we know that. We're fallen humans. You're choosing the lesser of evils. And ultimately, when you look at a platform that glorifies the distortion of God's creation, right? Distortion of gender, the ripping down of borders. Borders are God's design. Sovereign nation is God's design. That absolutely abhor human life and wanted you to be able to rip a child out of the womb up until the time of birth. You got some serious spiritual soul searching to do. If that offends you, block me. All right. So back to the equally yoked. There is such a synergy in that, and there's such a power in that, and that biblical principle is there for a reason. Now, secondary to that, as I was thinking about this, so Todd and I met back in California when I was scaling a company, a consumer financial company. He came in, got hired as our VP of sales, brought into the organization to help us grow, manage, and build. So he works for me, but we were partners, it wasn't like that type of thing, obviously on paper, but Todd really came in and made a big impact in our business. And unfortunately, it was right around right before, actually it was during the primaries and stuff before the 2016 election, or 2015, but 16 presidency. And we were equally yoked, like in a worldview that way, So my point with this is that business, unfortunately, due to some very erroneous outside circumstances, my other partner and I, who was a behind the scenes partner, we made the decision to restructure and ultimately eventually shut it down. And Todd was unfortunately part of that restructuring, because we had to restructure and we had to downsize. We chose to. So unfortunately, we had to let him go. And it wasn't a lack of Todd's capacity, ability, skill set, or impact. It was just the reality of business. Well, that was back in, 2016, 17. I'm not sure when we actually made that decision. It was right around there. Well, here we are in 2026, full circle, and we're in a business partnership together that's synergistic, equally yoked, same vision, working hard together, shoring the responsibilities, dividing and conquering, masterminding, and making impact. So the other second principle is there are going to be relationships in life that come and go with seasons. Now, we stayed connected, not all the time, randomly out of the blue, usually something political. We'd share something or talk, or Todd was doing something. He'd call me up, have an idea, and we talked about stuff. Hey, a network marketing thing might have popped up. We're like, hey, what do you think of this and this and that? And there was always this alignment, right? but there was never anything to take action on. Now, that would have never happened if we didn't stay in contact, one. That would have never happened if Todd's experience working with me was not good. And he was like, that guy didn't do anything he said he would do, whatever. He's lazy, he's whatever. And also, if he didn't have the right framing and maturity and spiritual discernment of being like, he could have been bitter. I mean, he had to go figure something else out, and he jumped back into industry he knew, and he crushed it, because that's what he does. That's what you do in business. But he could have been bitter. He could have had this mindset of, screw you, you let me go. I lost this position when working with you. So it's really important to think about that, how you respond in relationships when those seasons end. And two, not how you respond. There's one, how you respond, but two is how you nurture the future of that. Another example, I have employees of mine who have left. Guys I've poured my heart and soul into to help them create success. And I just got a text from one of my employees, Clayton, if you're watching, ex-employees, and he's like, Josh, because he went on to a different sales role, which is awesome. I love that. I love when people get developed and when they have other opportunity and they create success, opening a business, whatever. I can go for dozens and dozens and dozens of people. He texted me, hey, Josh, I just got sales executive of the quarter, and it's a big company. And then he sends me a video from Ben Affleck in Boiler Room, which we always talked about being at Pikers. We don't have Pikers here. And he's like, hey, just a reminder, if you have any Pikers, send him this video. So the point is, that's a relationship that is still in connection, and there's a nurturing to it, and I have so many like that all the time. I just had a half-hour call with a guy that used to work with me when Kelly and I were going to a birthday party, as we were driving, and he's picking my brain because he wants to move from what he's doing, and he's successful, and he wants to move into actually opening his own business, and he was just picking my brain, and I'm pouring into that. Why? Well, one, A, I care, and two, you never know what the future brings. So in relationships, in business and other areas, if you can approach it, how can I add value? And during those seasons of connection, you're adding value. You never know what happens full circle. You never know. And there's so many people with a victim mindset, and Todd could have had a victim mindset. And then obviously Scott and Tyler knew each other. Tyler, Skylar, and Todd knew each other. I got brought in the mix. We launched a business in Texas like over 2 years ago. That was an EPC in the solar world, and we saw the solar world being decayed, and that's Skylar's world he comes from. And then we started looking at how we can help people establish more tax benefits, and then we saw everybody complaining about their solar systems not working. In the debt world, all of the clients that had solar were upset, and we were like, man, we got to figure out how to solve this problem. So the three of us worked together for many, many months to figure a solution to bring value to the consumer market. And now we're locked hand in hand, equally yoked, sharing the burden, working hard aggressively, and not having weighted scales. So the reminder today, no matter what, if you're working for somebody or you are the business owner, the relationships of the people that are in your sphere you should add value to, always. And then in the event of departure, do your best to keep that relationship. Stay connected so that when your name comes up, people are like, man, my life changed when I worked with that guy. I got guys that were drug addicts that are felons in prison that we've hired. And not because they were in a financial crime. It was just bad choices and stuck in addiction. Their lives are changed. They go on and to do something else in the future. They'll look back during that season of life and they'll say, my life changed when I worked with or when I did this. So reminder today, equally yoked in business is powerful, obviously other areas, and nurture the relationships that come in your path and appreciate the seasons of those relationships, because the full circle oftentimes yields a greater fruit than the initial harvest.